Hello and good morning, everyone. My name is Mehdi from Perfect Video Conferencing, and welcome, welcome to our webinar. Today, we're going to talk about many things in the video conferencing space and join us with our discussion afterwards with Q&A. Right now, if you have any questions, feel free to email at marketing@perfectvc for any technical difficulties, or chat in the chat box here. And let's wait for a few moments here. And right now I want to share a couple things with our newsletter and some of our blogs. So let me share my screen right now. So right now I'm going to share a portion of my screen. And as you can see, this is the newsletter that we sent out in November. So PVC wants to showcase anything new here, and you can find this here in our LinkedIn post or in your emails. And we would like to hear if you want to any suggestions, you want to see news about any certain product. But this is where we send out every other month, and we want to highlight anything new. And I also want to show some of our blogs in our LinkedIn. So when you have time, you can go through them, see the blogs that we have. We have the case studies, and we had a couple of blog posts about during COVID, what comes next. And let me pull up our other blogs in our Perfect VC website. We have a couple series like Don't Get Fired, How to Set Up a Video Conference Room, and we showcase suggestions on setting up a video conference room. Let's see. And this is one of the posts returning to work. We post this back in May on forecasting what happens next. So let me stop sharing here, and I want to introduce you to Stephen, and he will take it away.
Hey everyone, how's it going? My name's Stephen Durfee. For those of you that don't know me, I am the newest member over here at DCS. So I look forward to meeting you all and working with you a little bit further. Today's meeting or webinar is going to be pretty brief. Hopefully, we'll keep it slimmed down for you guys. Gonna keep it down to about 40 minutes. Mostly, we're just interested in finding out, how you guys have been doing. What's new in the world, especially with everything going on. Really the things that we can help you out with, going to open that up to you guys in the chat. So throughout this entire webinar, we'll be monitoring the chat to see if you have any input or questions, anything that is prevalent in your work lives today. It's mostly going to be a discussion between, from the PVC side, Randy Marcotti, and from DCS, going to be Rich DeBrino. And let's get started here for you guys. So let me just go ahead and move this down. Like I said, the outcomes for today, kind of just going to be looking to see what's changed in the workplace, things that we can help you out with, key improvements, new updates from our primary partners, new solutions that we can find in the video conferencing world, and everything that's changing with the technology. So first, going to bring it open to Randy.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Welcome anyone joining live. I see some folks in the wings. As Stephen mentioned, we'll take comments through chat. But part of what you saw is the introduction is the pending merger between Perfect Video Conferencing and DCS. So though this is a PVC branded webinar, we're sort of functioning as one organization. I've known Rich and the DCS team for many years. In the past COVID couple of years, I've been acting as a research advisor on the UCaaS and VCaaS space, running the Perfect Video Conferencing business and then and helping our clients deal with video conferencing as a policy approach and what to do internally. And the foundation of that comes from my 25 plus years in IT. Perfect Video Conferencing has been in the market of building great conference rooms and AV integrations. Our core values are, you'll see it on the website, is just a partnership, innovation, and value. We like to bring that to the table for you. What makes me tick, though, is really the integration of AV into the experience of the end user. And so I come aboard the DCS team knowing that the technology can have a great place in an organization, but it has to scale. And the professionals in the organization need to be able to manage this with external and internal customers. And for a long time, I've joked with Rich that the IT work that we do sometimes is like plumbing. And we all know what toilets are for, and the toilet needs to flush. And so no one wants that great toilet to get in the way. And the candid thing you'll hear from me today during this is that while COVID has created an event in the conference room, it's not everything that we worried it would be. But there's a great deal that we can do to make those conference rooms better so that the toilet flushes and that everyone's happy with how those conference rooms smell. And on that colorful note, Stephen, I turn it back to you, and thanks for having me as a guest speaker. I appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you, Randy. And with that, we're also going to hand it over to the DCS side with Rich Dobrino.
Good morning, everybody. Rich Dobrino, Chief Operating Officer for DCS Global. I was one of the original founders of DCS back in 2013. We focused on delivering solutions to the enterprise. We have a reputation in the business for great audio, video, great video conferencing, and quite frankly, for having some of the best support in the business. Support was the foundation of what we built this company on. As I've told Randy, who indeed we've known each other for many, many, many years, it's always been a great synergy between us. We've always joked that we should just bring our companies together and make one company out of it, and well, that's what we're doing right now. So it's great. We're called DCS Global because we are in multiple countries, US, Canada. We just opened up our European branch, but we haven't forgotten our roots where we come from here in the States. So, check out the website, dcs.global, learn a little bit more about us. For those of you that have just been PVC customers, we've been in the background with Randy for a long time. We've partnered on many, many projects. So great to meet you all. Hope to talk to you in the future. And thank you for having me here today.
That's great. Sounds great, Rich. So like I mentioned before, one of the main things that we're going to be talking about is the core content and what's actually changed, or what we actually learned, in the COVID conferencing room, and what we thought we knew about it and what we actually learned. So with that, I'm going to bring it back to Randy.
Sure. Thanks, Stephen. I mean, this isn't a death by PowerPoint slide. We're on, I think, slide 7 or 8 now. We only have about 4 or 5 more. The key thing is be engaged with us, and we'll learn from you. But what we know about the conference rooms is that they've become more important, not only in building culture in the organization, but also continuity. And IT has a lot to do. The home office stress for IT folks has created a desire that the AV integrator do no more than just great cameras and lighting and microphones, but the AV integrator, it really needs to be a partner in how video conferencing deals with HR issues, or a culture adoption, or safety in the conference room space. Some of the DCS products helps complement that with how you get access to the building or how you get access to the rooms. But it has to be in a set it and forget it environment, meaning if I'm a Hangouts environment, I don't want IT to have to struggle with tomorrow being a Zoom meeting and Wednesday being a Teams meeting. These are Hangout rooms, so go and use them to every possible method possible. But then when you bring in your device, how does that behave in the conference room? And so we've lost the appetite of tolerating people joining immersive conferencing from a laptop. We want them to have the great microphones and speakers available to any device. And so this, you'll hear a little bit more from me throughout this on the BYOD. And then as COVID hit the world and changed the way we use conferencing, we're all at our home offices with the understanding that when we go back to the conference room, there's going to be cute technology, and I'm using that sarcastically because there's a whole bunch of AI technology that has come into or has been promised in the conference room, and we've only seen a bit of it take off. Whether or not the room has AI enabled cameras or voice activated room starting, or whether or not you're automatically capturing content based on verbal cues. Not only does it have a sort of a cuteness or a coolness factor, it can be creepy. And there's choices that our clients have had to make about whether or not they even want to enable that AI technology. So those are a couple of things we knew going into the COVID conference room that we thought would change. Is that, the distancing, the proximity, and the activation might be a key thing. What we learned is that human behaviors can solve that cheaper and faster than technology. And a bottle of hand sanitizer solves half of the questions that people worried about in going into the conference room. So it didn't nearly present the complications that we thought it would. Stephen, back to you or Rich, right?
Yeah. So really, Randy's right, but it says here the slide, customer care is key. Well, when we started this company, our core principle was support first. Okay. And the way to do that is very simple. You think, how do I make sure that this is easy to use and that people don't have to call IT every time they want to make a call? That's one of the things we built the company on, and Randy as well. We want people to be able to walk in and intuitively be able to use the conference room. Okay. I think a lot of people have really focused on, really learned about being able to work from home. For many, it was an immersive dump, in the deep end experience. And now when they go back to the conference room, one of the things that we've discussed is that people are going to be more picky about it. They're going to be like, I was able to do this from home with 2 kids screaming and the dog running around and all these things happening. And now I want to be able to use the conference room. They're going to be less forgiving about audio. They're going to say, I had pretty good audio when I was at home because I put my headphones on and it worked great. They're going to be less forgiving about video. They're going to want to stay safe at the same time. We talk about COVID. People are going to want to have more hands off, more, Alexa, turn on the lights, type functionality. And I say that tongue in cheek, but really the automation that's available today does make it quite easy. You can have someone with a phone sit there and run the meeting from an app on their phone in a lot of cases. So I think there's a lot of great changes. I think automation has improved, AI has improved. And one of the great things about, one of the things about COVID that's good, I don't want to say great because it doesn't work, is it's forced a lot of people that were hesitant about video before to embrace it. So thank you very much. And back to you, Stephen.
Yeah, sounds great. And so now the main question is really, now that we're going back to work and going back to the office, what are the things about the technology that people would need to know?
Sure thing. I just prior to this, I was doing a little bit of research, Stephen, and I Googled what has COVID changed in the conference room, just to see if my experience and the customers who've been buying stuff, particularly over the last 6 months, has been a rush to get conference rooms, built out and tuned up. 3 key things that came in, again, the promises of the AI technology. There's a fairly significant fork in the road, and I'll send with the recording link, we'll send some links that I found that might be useful for any of the clients who might be doing some research on this. The AI stuff is interesting, meaning how many people in the room, do I get a report on that? Interest tracking, am I looking at the camera while someone's speaking, or am I looking down at my email? Interesting, but also creepy. It sort of raises a clear amount of privacy concerns, or do I really need to know that much information? Because I'd actually walk down the hall and look in the room, or if my users are mad, they will tell me. So again, there's a price to performance question that seems to be coming up across the industry in the literature. It's cool, but why or why not should we use it? And I found a couple of articles, even one by Gartner, that sort of talks about the promises of that AI technology and whether or not it's worth it. From my perspective, some of the stitching that I've seen where a camera can now look at a full conference room and then frame the 3 people in a conference room and put them in their own particular box, that could be a some continuity between the home office experience and the conference room experience. I know with our clients, the DCS and PVC customers have to wonder about, well, what's the experience of watching a full room and the connection that comes from that, or watching some one person on a box. And you just have to be attuned to how your room performs for the far end participants, not just those in the room. And Rich alluded to the second point, Stephen, that I think we're seeing more and more important on the platforms, and be it Teams or Zoom or Life Size, they're all racing to make sure that we all don't have to share and touch the same device. So the rooms were initially designed with one controller in the room, and you'd be fine sliding that thing around the room. I'm a germaphobe, so COVID didn't even need to make me worried about that. So I was always the Lysol hand sanitizer guy. And so I guess the question for us now, and we're seeing this from the manufacturers, multiple tablets being supported at multiple locations in the room, or even the software being able to be emulated on a mobile device or on a laptop, where moderation isn't just about the person in control of the meeting. It might be someone outside of the room, so you don't have to have the same density in the conference room. But then that muting, unmuting, camera control, content sharing can be done, off the one tablet in the room. And it kind of democratizes that role so that more people can do it without overlapping of colds and flus. Rich, I know I could talk about the rest of this, but I see your name on it, so I'll hush and go to you.
Thanks, Randy. Technology is adaptable, and I think that's really important. It used to be back in the day, as we call it, you'd have a Polycom room or a life-size room or Crestron, whatever different type of room, or Cisco room. And now people want to be able to say, hey, at 9 o'clock, we've got a Zoom meeting. At 10 o'clock, we've got a WebEx meeting. At 11 o'clock, we've got a Google Hangouts meeting. How do we do that? We all got used to being able to do it from our laptops, albeit maybe you had to reboot in between or something, but you could handle those different invites you got from various people. The conference rooms haven't always been as adaptable. We'll talk a little later in this presentation about what some of the new innovations are, but the driving force is the end users. The people watching this webinar, understand that you're not willing to say, well, I can't do this in my conference room. I was able to do it from my house, in my study, or in my living room, in my kitchen. I want to be able to do it in my conference room. And, so that fixed experience that can be expanded. Saying, hey, I want the great camera, I want the great audio, I want the environment, but I also want to still be able to do those different things I could do from my kitchen. So users are demanding more, and technology is stepping up. So back to you.
Yeah, that is a great point. And I think that kind of brings us to one of our key topics are, what are the actual improvements that our primary partners are making? What are the tangible solutions that we are getting that we can, start fighting some of these problems? And going back to Randy here.
Yeah, I can speak to a couple of particular manufacturers. I think the key thing for me has been 25 years ago, we had our first conference bridges, and everyone was excited to get a passcode in a meeting bridge. It shocks me that we had Zoom bombing and video bombing without meetings without passwords. It's like that was an unforced error across it was fascinating to watch. But we had audio conferencing 30 years ago with PIN codes, and why we forgot to use PIN codes, sacrificing for the easeability of joining, made sense. We'll back some of the security, but we don't want to lose the easy access. And so, for example, Life Size and Polycom, manufacturers who were racing a horse to their own bridge and their own equipment in a closed ecosystem with some gateways outward, now have flattened that and said we can run other people's software on our devices. So Life Size will have the Mars version of their software, so that the great camera, great audio from Life Size can be used on a Zoom kit. So the equivalent today is a USB kit. There's a lot of problems with some of the cables and plugs and wires. Look under a table of a USB based video conference room and you'll see a ton of cabling. Go to something like a Poly or a Cisco or
and Randy, we lost Randy, so there's technology at work. I'll pick up for him there. What he's basically saying is that the major manufacturers, the Life Sizes, the Polycoms, the Logitechs, Crestron, Yealink, they have realized this is a desire, a strong desire. People want to be able to either bring their own device in and still be able to use the great in-room cameras and microphones and speakers, but they also want to be able to walk in and touch a button or hit a panel or say, start meeting. All these are things that happen today and can happen today. So we've seen those trends. Moving on to talk about things like intelligent kiosks, I'll show some pictures in further slides, but, we have kiosks now you can walk up to, you can use your phone, scan a QR code instead of having to touch the screen, for the Randy, the germaphobe, right? And for other people that are concerned, right? Wayfinding is very important. I can't tell you the number of times I've walked into some of these massive buildings or malls or whatever and go, okay, where the heck is this room or this place? I have one client in particular who I will not name that I wish would do wayfinding because I lost every time I go to their building. Okay. Combinations of signage and safety, having the ability to, have a hand sanitizer kiosks. So while you're getting your Lysol squirt to clean your hands, you can also read up on what's going on, the latest news. So combinations of things we didn't see in the past. So, Steven, sorry.
Yeah, so I think we can maybe just give Randy a quick second here, but while he does that, we can just move on a little bit further. The next main thing would be essentially to the people that are, watching this webinar and who are current clients of ours, what are some things that they can also bring to the table?
Well, great question. Price to value is really changed things, right? We've got 1080. It used to be, 720p, then it became 1080p, and now displays are 4K. What that really changes, to be perfectly honest, is a more quality screen that's easier on the eyes, better resolution. Sound quality has definitely improved. I'd say the advent of what they call beamforming microphones, to be technical there, making sure that you can sit or stand in a conference room no matter where you are and be heard, without having to there's the guy that would always yell at the screen, right? Everybody's seen that in a conference room, right? You got the one guy that when he starts talking, he's yelling at the screen because he thinks he needs to do that, right? You've got the better audio so that everyone can hear clearly. It's not all blasting from the front. So things have definitely improved, and technology has improved where Randy is now back with us, and we'll kick it back up to him to the top of this list because I finished my part. Randy.
When you're working home office, let's not have an internet drop. So that's thank you Comcast for for the interruption there. All right, so Stephen, we were chatting around the key improvements, and I know I was about ready to say something brilliant about life size. Can we go back to that page, because I know there's something there that was helpful for me there. Yeah, so the other piece, that Cisco Life Size, Poly have all learned is let's run anyone's software. So the appliances don't need to be fixed and stuck. We also know that because we were paying good money for that equipment in the room, we want to make sure that the equipment services anybody in the room, and that comes from the scheduler or to reception. So you walk in, we're building spaces now where you walk in the space and you sign at the front desk, and it says "Hello, Rich" on the room that you're walking into. And if Rich is scheduled for a Teams meeting, it has changed already to anticipate Rich's need to press one button and join. Or he's got a Cisco meeting, he wants to use WebEx, we're giving him a dongle or a wireless pairing code, or when he then connects to that room with his device, that BYOD, he's getting the great Logitech, Yealink, Life Size, Cisco camera, microphone, speaker. So you're not huddled around a crappy laptop in a $10,000 room. The other key improvement, Stephen, audio pickup, and we have to be careful about this. I'll talk about this in the next slide, is the microphones have gotten better. And if the room doesn't sound great, that's a problem for everyone else. And so now we can hear the crappy sounding conference rooms. But while the microphone improvement has gotten better, the prices come down. So we're not building 2 or 3 rooms anymore. We're building 7 or 8. Every space becomes conferencing. So there's an inflection between bringing your own device, having great audio, and price to performance.
Very interesting. And I know we kind of want to narrow down a little bit on the actual products that we're actually going to be seeing a lot more often. And Randy, you could speak to some of these.
Yeah, and I think related to the particular changes, I think enhanced by COVID, maybe not caused by COVID. Everyone went home, everyone was on a platform, and suddenly all of them had exponential growth. And as Rich said it earlier, they came back to the office and wanted a clean experience. Well, the top left one, Stephen, if you want to kind of highlight that one, maybe I can spotlight. That's a Nareva soundbar. It's a new, was a Zoom favorite product, and now all the other manufacturers and bridges have looked at it and like it. So as an integrator, that gives me audio in and audio out, either wired or USB, and it does a misting of the conference room and picks up audio anywhere. So if you want your whole conference room to be heard, that's a product for you. Don't whisper in the corner because it's going to hear you. You go to the next image to the right, it says Poly Partner device. That's actually a Microsoft Teams kit from Polycom. And it natively is running Teams as a bridge over to any other platform. And so you've got the Teams controls on the bottom, but full direct dial into Blue Jeans, life size, Teams, whatever. So your end users just use Outlook or Google to schedule, and then the meeting modality shows up on the screen. So that's only 2 months old. I was blown away a couple of days ago on the demo. I haven't seen it in production, but it's the promise that everyone has been making, and Poly has delivered. Just below the Nareva, our two Logitech products, is a purple dongle. That's the BYOD experience. It's a USB device that'll then take, if you're running Zoom in a conference room and you plug that in, it'll suppress Zoom and give the laptop that you plugged in choice of microphone and speaker. So then you can take a Zoom room, suppress Zoom, plug in, go Teams, and when you're done, you unplug, it goes back to Zoom, and you don't need IT to help. Kind of a nice touch. To the left of it, that camera looking arm thing, and then the one down below the purple dongle, those are whiteboard capture tools. We all have cell phones. We can take pictures of the content, but then who's responsible for managing? It's a Logitech, Life Size, and a number of other folks have whiteboard capturing tools. They're now PoE driven, so no cabling, no wiring challenges, and then it's taking the video feed of a camera to a whiteboard and making that accessible to everyone. And no one broke the camera, or no one broke the marker at the dry erase board. So let's make it available in a video call. The two small images above the DCS logo, one's the Yamaha speaker array. I'm in love with that little white thing because it comes with its own PoE switch and its own DSP as a kit. And like the Shure or Sennheiser ceiling mics, it's kind of plug and play. There's not a lot of programming that's needed because most of this technology is now going into more conference rooms, and you need something that auto discovers a conference room. And so that AVR camera, put it in any direction and it's going to auto discover. It has a little kind of Geiger in it or a compass of some sort that if it sees itself as upside down, it flips the images for you. So what we're seeing here, and then that last big screen that has the zoom image, that's a D10, it's a touch screen. What we're seeing in the technology from the manufacturers, that they're anticipating the end user experience. So on this D10, a user walks in and they're on the same Wi-Fi as the device, and they see a Zoom schedule. They do near field technology to then present either Zoom or Teams to the end user, just again, based on access permissions to a mobile device. It'll render the software that's available to that end user. The camera will know that it's upside down. So then Rich and I don't have to schedule heavy IT install for you. And then you get to pay us less for one room and buy more rooms. We all win in the end, but it's less complicated for IT install for us and less complicated for ITU to manage it.
And I know, Rich, you alluded to some of these products before, but with the new kiosk lines, what are some of these that can, help facilitate some of these changes?
Sure. So in the top left, we've got that's the full-blown Crestron room kit. That's for your higher end integrated rooms, where you've got ceiling speakers and microphones and maybe wireless and multiple cameras and multiple screens. I mean, it's for your high-end rooms that were expensive with great programming and stuff. You want to be able to integrate the ability to do Zoom, do Teams, do BYOD at the same time, bring your own device at the same time. So that's kind of what that looks like there. What all the users see is a touchscreen, but they used to see, except it'll switch between being, whatever, Zoom, Teams, whatever it is, or just a generic touchscreen. Okay. In the bottom there is a picture of one of our 2 manufacturing facilities, where we are designing and building and manufacturing custom kiosks, whether they be, stand-up kiosks that someone walks up to in a mall, inside or outside. Those, we're showing a couple, an indoor and an outdoor unit above there, whether we're talking about health screening and security kiosks, where someone walks up and checks in, whether they're checking in by touching it or checking in by scanning a QR code on their phone. And then there's a printout, maybe there's a printout where they put that badge with their name on it and says they were screened. We've even got, since there wasn't a lot of room for things, we also have hand sanitizer kiosks, like I mentioned before. We have wayfinding kiosks, but we're able to, thanks to our manufacturing facilities, we're able to produce different types of kiosks, and that's a big deal for us. That's something we picked up this year, or the last year and a half, I should say, and it's become quite a bit large part of our business. So thank you.
And I know a big issue is companies not paying attention to the users. So what are some solutions that these things can be integrated to essentially not cause a user revolt, by the end users not feeling comfortable with the new systems, or, having too many things that they're not used to using? And going off of that, I'm going to pass back off to Randy.
Yeah, I got a couple of things that came into me directly on chat, Stephen, so I'll send them out to a group that you can feed those in as well. Thanks for those folks that used chat. I guess the first part of this for me is ask your end users. We get new clients that come in all the time and come to me or Rich or any of the team members for expertise and suggestions. And then we'll ask an awkward question. It's like, well, what are your end users asking for? And usually we get a great list of what the complaints are from the end users, but we don't get a huge list of what would they like to see or what do they imagine could happen. And just any time that I'm going in at the ground level to kind of redesign a video conferencing approach, certainly I have to take into account physical distancing and kind of the new COVID reality of conference rooms, or sound issues, as we've been discussing, or kind of what the experience is about. Do I mirror a mobile experience or a desktop to a conference room? So there's some continuity. But if I haven't asked the end users, or if my clients haven't asked the end users, we could sink the ship right out front. And so I would like to ask anyone who's interested in using DCS or PVC as a resource, please try to allow a little bit of time for a temperature check. We don't have to survey your entire organization. We don't have to get into analysis paralysis, but we would like to know not only the problems that we're solving, but what are the opportunities for growth, or what are the nice to haves, not only what are the things that really piss people off. Let's start on the positive lane, and in that positive lane of, where can we go to grow together by bringing in good technology. And then they're going to be then they're going to be stakeholders and support whatever we deploy, right?
And then,
at the same time, I think it's, I'll just kind of jump in. Sorry, Stephen. Plan for delays. Look, we're big about staying on time, on budget, on schedule, right? Well, on time, schedule, same thing. But we'd like it to be something you really appreciate. We'd like it to be a project that at the end of you go, wow, I'm really happy with this. And I'd like to tell 10 people how happy I am about it for you. Okay. We built our business at DCS on referrals. I would say that 98% of the business we've gotten over the years has been because somebody told somebody else how much they liked what we did. And, I don't want that to ever change. we do some marketing with PVC. PVC has always been better at it than we have, but we've got really happy customers, as does PVC, and so together we're going to continue to have happy customers and make sure that they stay that way. And part of that is setting their expectations properly. At the end of the day, this is what you're going to have, and mean it. We don't promise things we can't deliver, and we always deliver when we promise. Period.
Stephen, would you like me to feed in those questions that came in chat, or do you want to facilitate those?
Yeah, that would be great, as I can't fully see who they were coming from either.
Okay, great. Yeah, so one came to this, and have you been using the tracking cameras, and why, and what's the use case for those? I've not used them all, but most of them are now doing some form of framing or zoning. And then if you're considering cameras that do some kind of auto movement, know that it's going to do some auto movement. So if you've got an attorney at the head of the table who's needing to be framed and the only one in screen, so you're not seeing other people having lunch, you got to turn that auto framing off. And auto framing is not tracking. So the mistakes we've seen people look for is zone in and get all the human bodies in the room, and we don't really want all of the people on camera. So then what do I do with my presets? Or tracking, is it based on voice, or is it based on faces? The moment you put a mask on, that makes it harder to track based on voice or mouth movement. So the technology is limping. But we have had some really great experience with the Logitech Rally camera, the Aver Pro camera, and then the new Poly, the equivalent of the Studio 2, I forget the model number, but they're doing a good job, because we can go in as integrators and change the settings and the timing, because all of that is subjective. So that's the first one on tracking cameras that I have.
And real quick on that, Randy, the Crestron UC soundbars are a surprisingly low cost, pretty darn good framing and tracking camera that work with the integrated, because it has integrated beamforming microphones, so they're basing it on sound, and they have enough of a delay built into it that it's not annoying. So that guy that coughs in the middle of the meeting does not cause the camera to reframe on him. It takes enough seconds to change that it is a logical, and it seems pretty nice. So
yeah, the second part of that was, do you have any favorites and why? I don't. There are some ones that work better or are more adjustable. So the Yamaha microphone, the ability for it to just auto correct a room, and it does it listens for any HVAC or any creaky doors and non-human speech, and it does some mid-range auto tuning of that stuff out. So that's a kind of a cool function, because people are building stark, clean, wipeable conference rooms that are noisy. And they're not noisy just for the people in the room, but it's the folks on headsets at their home office that have to hear the shrill sound in the conference room. So one of my other favorites, 2x2 sound paneling, like go in there with some decorations and make the room sound softer, because it's a better experience for everyone else, better placed cameras and lighting. And I think just knowing what the camera is supposed to do, and let's train your users so that it's doing what you want it to do, or they're having the right expectation. Because a lot of that tracking camera stuff can be really creepy to end users if they don't know that's what it's supposed to do. And IT has the ability to turn it off. So if you want to go back to a remote control with 3 presets, you do you. We're not going to judge, at least not to your face. Rich, anything else to say about the sound or anything? Because the last one was mistakes or wins. What mistakes came within the last 12 months, if you've seen any, either from your own deployments and my deployments, or from the technology?
Well, I've seen, wins. The wins I've seen a higher acceptance by users to understand things we've been trying to teach many of them for 20 years. I think that forcing people to be their own support and fix their own camera and audio issues at home has made them much more aware of how things are in the conference room, and actually to appreciate it. There's not only the demand is higher, but the appreciation seems to be higher from the users we've had that have gone back to the room. They're happy to see, hey, it's great that I have this and I don't have to deal with it myself. It's great that I can do this. On the flip side, I think I've seen that people are looking for solutions that have always traditionally been software only and are disappointed when they don't have them. The ability to, some of the things we can do on our own laptops are still much more challenging in the conference room just because of the dynamics and what's involved. It's a lot harder to control a bunch of integrated equipment than it is something running on your laptop. So for those of you listening that are end users, please understand the technology is getting better. And as we are able to implement some of those cool GWiz features in your conference room, we will. And thank you for your patience.
You nailed that one, so I don't need to add anything to that one, Stephen.
Perfect. Then moving on, we could just really talk about the main thing that we're concerned about is what do our clients actually need and what can we help them with? And we're going to be bringing it back into a, more open-ended question and answer section here in a second, but we've talked about some possible solutions such as access control and tracking, how many people are in a room, how many people can be in that room, the capacity of it, annotation and dry and erase capture with things such as Captivo and things like that. And with that, we can bring it to the question and answer section. I'm just going to bring it and open it up again.
Hey, Stephen, so on that last page, some of these came in on that last slide. Some of those came into me and Mehdi as we were setting up the webinar as well. Can you talk about what, like, for example, temperature taking and access control? So in the early stages of the COVID phenomenon, most of the video conferencing manufacturers plan to have their equipment participate in that check and balance or some software that could do it. And what we realized is a QR code and a survey and personal compliance was enough. We didn't know if we needed misters to go into the rooms after conference rooms to sanitize them because we didn't know a lot about what the COVIDs actually was. And so really, we know if we have good safety sanity, like washing our hands and using hand sanitizers, we don't get the flu anymore, and we can protect people from COVID. So the reality is the video conferencing providers backed off from some of those promises and really went back to their core skills. So the cameras and the microphones have gotten so much better during kind of this down period because that's where the demand has come from. Like Rich said, you've done it well in your home office. Now you need it great in your conference room. It triggered my thought about this last piece here, this mobile tap pairing and device management. We saw it, some manufacturers do it, but we don't see a lot of huge need for it because if I'm going to use my device, my mobile phone to say which conferencing, I then have to give the system access to my device. And I'm probably not that comfortable with that level of privacy access. I don't need Rich's conference room to see my calendar and any other data that it's going to collect. So there's a lot of the end users have a pretty hard stop with that. Similar to that, Logitech, Zoom now offer device management. So you're plugging in all these USB peripherals. Do you need Zoom to manage your hardware and your software builds on your hardware? If you're an organization that doesn't have one, maybe it's the right fit. But I'm finding a lot of my customers saying there's no way in hell, as wonderful as Logitech is, there's no way in hell they're going to manage my devices for me through their cloud. I'm going to use a more robust enterprise solution for that because I already have it. So go cautiously into my recommendation for anyone interested in those things is go cautiously into device management or AI technology from the video conferencing providers if that wasn't their core skill, because there's already people who focus on that. And it's a land grab and an add-on. There's no reason for them to get that share of wallet.
Well said.
I didn't get any more direct to me, and a couple of people dropped out. Stephen, I've been watching the kind of participation. We're at the timestamp on this, and I know we had a logistics with the link. So if no one's requesting, you raise your hand if you want to come live on the call, or enter chat, Stephen. I'm looking too. I don't know if you see any on your side.
Not seeing any on mine.
We can go to, there's no other Q&A. Let's go to Mehdi maybe, Stephen. See if we wrap up.
Sounds great.
I'll just say thanks and back to you, Mehdi and Stephen. Yeah.
No worries. Thank you guys so much for that presentation. Right now we're closing up the webinar, and just a friendly reminder, we also have prizes for people who registered and joined and watching the recording. We're going to send out a recording for this webinar, and we're going to do a raffle, and by next week or end of the month, we'll see who's going to be the winner. And if you want to contact Rich and Randy, these are their email up here. And let's see. Right now, we'll just open up for any Q&A right now. Open up the floor. Anything else, Stephen, on your end?
I got one on my side that came in.
Okay, with that, yeah, we can pass it over to Randy.
Yeah, I did get a how do we reach you? Stephen's going to have a link to his calendar as a follow-up in the recording. So certainly Rich and I are reachable on these email addresses. Probably easier just book some time with Stephen, have him learn about what needs you may have, and then he'll bring either of us in as needed. Again, we're an open book. You can come to us as you need to, but in the recording, you'll get a link to Stephen's calendar to just book as you choose to. Clarification on the end of the month, it'll be this is the end of the month today. It's already November 30th. God bless it, right? So it'll actually be within a week or so, once we've sent out the link to the recording, we'll announce the 3 winners for the prizes. And essentially these are kits that'll help build out conference rooms for you. Mehdi, thanks. Stephen, thanks for the logistics. I'm out.
No problem. Thanks a
Thanks,
lot.
folks.
Thanks.
Have a great day,
for coming,
everybody.
and that'll do it for us. Have a great one.